morning was quiet. The sun had just started to rise over the hills. A cool breeze moved through the trees and the sky was soft orange. Birds sang from the rooftops and the world felt peaceful. But near a small farm, something moved in the shadows. Jack, the farm owner, was inside his wooden house sipping warm tea. His farm was simple: green fields, wooden fences, and a small apple orchard behind his house. He loved the peace here, but recently, something strange was happening. For 3 days in a row, apples had gone missing from his trees. Not many, just a few, but always before sunrise. No damage, no footprints, just missing apples. He didn't mind much, but his curiosity grew. That morning, he woke early and sat quietly near the orchard, hiding behind a large barrel. He waited, listening to the wind and birds. Then, he heard it. A soft rustle, leaves moving. Jack held his breath. From between the trees, a small figure appeared, thin arms, bare feet, and skin that softly glowed in the morning light. She was tiny, no taller than a child. Her skin was pale blue, her eyes large and violet. She had a torn brown cloth wrapped around her. It was clear she was not human, an alien girl. She moved carefully, looking left and right. Then she jumped up and plucked an apple from a branch. She bit into it quickly, her eyes wide with hunger. She wasn't stealing out of greed. She was starving. Jack didn't move. He just watched. The girl reached for a second apple. But as she stepped forward, a twig snapped under her foot. She froze. Her glowing eyes darted toward the sound. Jack stood up slowly. "You missed one?" he said gently, holding out a red apple in his hand. The girl's eyes widened. She dropped the fruit she had and stumbled back, panic rising in her chest. Her breathing became fast. She looked ready to run. "I'm not going to hurt you," Jack said, still holding the apple. "I saw you the other morning too. You were hungry then and you're hungry now." She didn't speak, she just stared at him. Jack placed the apple on the ground. "Here, take it." Then he slowly walked backward and sat down on a wooden log near the fence. He didn't chase her, he didn't shout. He just sat, sipping his tea again. The girl didn't move for a while. She kept staring at him, confused. Why wasn't he angry? Why wasn't he calling the guards? She had seen many humans before. Most shouted at her kind. Some threw rocks. Others laughed and pushed her away. She had learned to hide, to run and never trust. But this human was different. After a long minute, she tiptoed forward, picked up the apple, and ran off into the trees. Jack smiled quietly. He didn't say a word. The next morning, just before sunrise, Jack placed 2 apples under the tree and left. He didn't hide. He didn't watch. He went back inside his house and looked out the window. Sure enough, the apples were gone within minutes. A small shadow ran back into the forest again. Jack didn't follow. He just whispered, "Who are you, little one?" He started placing food each morning. Apples, bread, sometimes a small jug of water. And each time it disappeared before the sun was fully up. But what he didn't know was that the tiny alien girl was starting to wonder too. Why would a human help her? Why wasn't he scared of her? Why did he give instead of take? Deep inside the forest, the girl sat near a cold stream. She held the apple in her hand, staring at it. It was the best thing she had eaten in days. She remembered the way the human looked at her, not with anger, but with kindness. A single tear fell down her cheek. For the first time in a long time, she didn't feel completely alone. And far away, back at the farm, Jack looked at the empty orchard and smiled. "Tomorrow," he said softly, "I'll wait for her again." But what he didn't know was, very soon, the girl would stop running, and that one simple apple would change both of their lives forever. The next morning came with fog hanging low over the fields. The sky was pale and sleepy. Jack stood at the edge of the orchard again, holding a small basket. But this time, he didn't leave food and walk away. This time, he set the basket on a wooden table under the tree. He placed 2 apples, A piece of soft bread, a small cheese slice, and a cup of warm tea in it. Then, instead of hiding, he sat on the opposite side of the table. He didn't speak. He just waited. A long silence passed. Then, a movement. Leaves shook gently, and the same tiny figure appeared. The alien girl's feet were dirty. Her legs were thin. Her hair was silver and tangled like the roots of a tree. Her large violet eyes locked on Jack, then on the food. But this time, she didn't run. She stepped closer. Slowly. She didn't trust him. Not yet. But something deep inside her whispered, "He's not like the others." She stopped a few feet from the table, staring at the basket. Jack noticed her staring at the cup, steam still rising from the tea. "It's warm," Jack said quietly. "I thought the mornings might be cold where you sleep." Still, she didn't reply. She didn't even blink. Jack pushed the basket a little closer to her side of the table. "Go ahead, I already ate." A soft breeze brushed between them. Then, she sat down. Not all the way. Not with comfort, but just barely on the edge of the bench like a bird ready to fly at any moment. Her hands shook as she reached for the apple. She sniffed it, then took a small bite. Then another. Her cheeks moved, quickly as she chewed. Hunger controlled her hands more than fear. Jack didn't interrupt. He just watched quietly as she devoured the bread next. Then, very slowly, her tiny fingers reached for the tea. She lifted the warm cup to her lips. For the first time, she closed her eyes. Just for a moment, the warmth touched something deeper than just her body. It touched her soul. Jack smiled softly. Still no words from her. That was okay. He didn't need them. "I'm Jack," he said. She froze again. He raised both hands gently. "You don't have to tell me your name, not yet, just thought you might want to know mine." She looked at him for a long time. Her glowing eyes studied his face like she was trying to decide what kind of creature he was. Then she looked down at her tea again. The silence returned, but it wasn't uncomfortable this time. It was peaceful. When seeing, she finished eating, she stood slowly, ready to leave again, but Jack spoke before she could. "Same time tomorrow?" She paused, then gave a tiny, almost invisible nod, and vanished into the trees. That night, Jack sat on his porch looking at the stars. He remembered the way she drank the tea, so careful, like it was sacred. He wondered where she slept, what she had seen, why she trusted no one. But more than that, he wondered why no one else had helped her before. He went inside, lit a candle, and started writing in a small notebook. Day 4. She sat at the table today, haughty every bite, still no name, but I'll wait. Far away, deep in a hollow log hidden by moss, the alien girl curled up with the blanket Jack had given her last time. It smelled like wood and smoke, and something new, safety. She held the empty teacup she had secretly taken. It was metal, old and dented, but it was hers now, her first gift. Not taken, not stolen, given. Her eyes watered as she clutched the cup to her chest, and for the first time since she fled her colony, she didn't cry herself to sleep. The wind was stronger that morning. Leaves danced across the orchard and the sky had turned gray. Jack still prepared the table. Same basket, same food, same quiet heart. He waited again under the same apple tree. But this time, she didn't come. He waited for hours. No sign. His tea turned cold. Jack stood slowly, picked up the basket, and walked toward the edge of the forest. He didn't enter, just looked into the thick trees where shadows slept. "Are you okay?" he called softly. "It's still here and if you're hungry." But only the wind replied. Disappointed but not angry, Jack left the basket under the tree and went back inside. That night, rain began to fall, soft at first. then heavier. Jack sat at his window, watching it pour. He worried. Not because his apples were being stolen, but because a small alien girl was out there, alone and likely cold. The storm lasted for hours. Then, near midnight, a sound, tap, tap, tap. It was not loud, just enough to be heard over the rain. Jack opened his front door and found her, soaked, shivering, covered in mud. Her silver hair was stuck to her face. She looked more fragile than ever. But she was holding something, the old teacup. She didn't say a word. Jack didn't ask questions. He simply stepped aside and said, "Come in." Inside, the fire was warm. Jack gave her a towel and a dry blanket. He left her alone to sit near the fire while he prepared warm soup. Still, she said nothing. But her eyes said everything. Pain, fear, and something new. Guilt. When Jack placed the bowl in front of her, she didn't eat right away. Her fingers shook, then, barely above a whisper, she spoke. "Why?" Jack blinked. That voice. It was soft, raspy, like wind through dry leaves. He looked at her gently. "Why what?" "Why, you help?" Jack leaned forward. His voice was calm. "Because you needed it." Her lip trembled. "No one helped before?" Jack's chest ached at those words. He nodded. "They should have." She lowered her head. Her voice cracked as she said the next words. "I run from black camp, work, beat, chain. I crawl night and hide, 2 moons, no food, no sleep, then find trees, apples." Tears ran down her cheeks now. "I not want steal. I just not want die." Jack sat back, his hands clenched. He knew about those camps, hidden deep in the forest, abandoned factories where orphaned alien children were forced to work for scraps, forgotten by law, ruled by fear. She had escaped. She had survived. He felt both angry and proud at once. "You don't have to run anymore," Jack said slowly. "Not here." The girl looked up at him. Her eyes were glassy, wet. "I don't know." "Name now." Jack tilted his head. "What do you mean? My real name, taken. Can't call me Unit X9, I forget old name." Jack's heart broke even more. He thought for a moment. Then with a soft smile, he said, "How about a new one?" The girl stared at him. "A name just for you. For now. Until you remember your true one." She was silent. Jack looked around. His eyes landed on the apple tree outside the window, its branches strong despite the storm. "How about Zira?" The girl repeated it slowly. "Zira." She looked at him with wide, wondering eyes. "I like." That night, Zira didn't run back into the forest. She slept on the couch beside the fire, wrapped in a warm blanket, holding her dented teacup close. And Jack? He sat nearby with his notebook and wrote, "Day 7. Her name is Zira." She spoke, and I will never forget her voice. Outside, the storm finally passed, and in the wind, for the first time, there was peace. Zira had stayed in Jack's home for 3 quiet days. Each morning, she helped him in the garden, picking vegetables and carrying small tools with her tiny hands. She never asked for much. She still didn't speak much either. But her silence no longer felt heavy. She was healing, bit by bit. Jack built her a small wooden bed in the corner near the fire. He also gave her an old scarf which she wore like a treasure. But peace is fragile. And one day, peace knocked. And this time, it wore the wrong face. It was just after noon. Jack was in the orchard trimming branches, and Zira was collecting fallen apples into a basket. The sky was clear and the day felt normal. Then the sound of an engine rolled in from the long road. A dark gray hover truck stopped at Jack's front gate. 2 figures stepped out. They were clean, tall, and dressed in black coats. Their uniforms had silver stripes on the shoulders, a mark of sector patrol. They wore polite smiles, but their eyes were cold like stone. Jack walked up slowly. "Afternoon," he said, wiping his hands on his shirt. The taller one spoke. His voice was smooth, too smooth. "Sir, we're looking for a missing unit. Escaped subject from Labor Division, believed to be hiding somewhere in this region." Jack's stomach turned cold. He kept his face calm. "Don't think I've seen anyone like that," he said. The second man tapped a small screen. A picture appeared, blurry but clearly Zira. Subject X9. Female, non-human. "Approximately this tall," he said, raising his hand about 3 feet from the ground. "Last seen 2 weeks ago, fleeing Sector 12. Jack didn't blink. "I've just got squirrels and crows out here." The men chuckled lightly, but it wasn't real laughter. It was the kind that hides knives behind smiles. Inside the house, Zira stood frozen at the window. She saw the truck. She saw the uniforms. She saw the screen they held. Her legs trembled. She dropped the apple she had been holding. They had found her. She wanted to run, to hide, to disappear. But then she remembered something. Jack's promise. "You don't have to run anymore, not here." Back outside, the patrolman stepped closer to the orchard. "Mind if we look around?" one asked casually. Jack's jaw tightened. "I do mind, actually. Private property." The taller officer raised an eyebrow. "Just doing our job. If you're hiding her, that's obstruction." Jack stepped forward, eyes locked. "If I find a scared child hiding in my trees, I give her food. That's my job." A heavy silence fell between them. Tension thickened like smoke. Then a soft voice cut through it. "She's not a subject." They all turned. Zira stood near the edge of the orchard, small, dirty, her scarf fluttering in the wind. Jack's heart jumped. "Zira, no." But she raised her chin. "I'm not a number," she said, louder this time. "I'm not X9. My name is Zira." The patrolman stared, stunned. The taller one stepped forward. "Subject X9, by law you must return. To, no." Zira stepped in front of Jack. "This place is mine now. This human..." He gave me a name, a bed, food, and not once. "Did he call me thing?" Jack gently stepped beside her. "She's not going anywhere." The patrolman narrowed his eyes. "We'll be back. With orders." Jack nodded slowly. "Then, you better bring a whole army." The two men didn't smile this time. They turned back to their truck and left. Dust followed them. Zira was shaking. She had never stood up like that before, never spoken for herself. Jack kneeled beside her. "That was brave, Zira." She looked at him. "I don't want to run anymore." Jack placed a hand on her shoulder. "Then we'll make this place one they can't take from you." That night, Jack locked every door and window. He set up trip alarms along the fences and kept a flashlight by his bed. Zira curled up in her blanket, but sleep didn't come. Still, for the first time, she had stood in the light, and she had spoken her name. The sun rose slow and golden the next morning, painting the orchard in warm light. But the house felt cold, too quiet, too still. Jack noticed it the moment he stepped into the kitchen. Zira wasn't curled up in her blanket. Her scarf lay folded, neatly on the couch. The dented teacup she always carried sat alone on the wooden table. He called softly, "Zira?" No answer. He checked the porch, the barn, the orchard. Nothing. The wind carried no footsteps, just silence. Then he saw it. Under the old apple tree, a single red apple, clean, untouched. Left purposefully. Jack's heart sank. She was gone. He searched for hours, through the fields, down the road, even into the edge of the forest. He called her name until his voice cracked, but the forest gave nothing back. No sign, no sound. By sunset, the light had turned red, and Jack stood staring at the empty space beneath the tree where she once sat. The same questions echoed in his mind. Did they come back for her? Did she run away? To protect me? Was she taken? Or did she choose to leave? He knelt down and picked up the apple. It was warm from the sun. His fingers gripped it tight. She didn't say goodbye, he whispered. But maybe this was her goodbye. Inside the house, Jack sat in silence. The tea kettle whistled, but he didn't move. The fire burned low, but he didn't add wood. He just stared at the dented cup. Her cup. He remembered her voice. Broken. Brave. My name is Zira. It echoed now like a ghost in the room. He opened his notebook and wrote only one line. Day 11. She left, or was taken. The orchard feels empty. Days passed. Jack returned to his work, quietly, slowly, but something in him had changed. He left a little food under the apple tree each morning, just in case. Every time it remained untouched, until one morning, a noise outside. Jack rushed out the door, but it wasn't her. A single slip of paper sat on the table beneath the tree, folded carefully, tucked under a stone. His hands trembled as he opened it. Inside was a message, written in uneven handwriting. I go help others like me. You gave me a name. Now I give that gift to more. Don't worry. Zira will come back. Jack let out a long breath. She wasn't taken. She had left on purpose, to be brave, to help others. That night, Jack didn't cry, but his heart swelled with something fierce and warm, pride and hope. Zira, the little apple thief, was now out there, fighting, living, helping, and she would come back. He believed it now. He looked at the empty cup one more time and smiled. The orchard had changed. Weeks had passed since Zira left. The trees were fuller now, heavy with fruit. The wind whispered through the leaves like soft voices, but none of them were hers. Jack still placed a small plate of food under the old apple tree every morning, a silent promise, a sign that he hadn't given up. But the plate always stayed full, until the 29th morning. That morning, the bread was gone, and in its place, a feather, not just any feather. It shimmered pale blue in the sunlight. It looked like something from no bird on earth. Jack picked it up carefully. His heart beat faster. She's close, he whispered. That evening, the sky turned gold and purple. Jack lit a lantern and sat outside on the porch, watching the tree. The wind stopped, the air grew still. Then he heard it. Footsteps, small, light. Not one set, but many. He stood slowly. Shapes began to form through the tall grass. First he saw her, Zira. She wore a cloth cloak now, patched with different fabrics. Her silver hair was tied back. Her eyes, still glowing violet, met his. She smiled. Jack felt breathless, but she wasn't alone. Behind her were 5 more children. Tiny, thin, frightened, alien, each one different. One with green-tinted skin, another with small scales, another with big ears that twitched in fear. Zira stepped forward and whispered, I told you I'd come back. Jack couldn't speak for a second. He looked at the kids, then at her. You found them. Zira nodded. Like me, they ran, hid, starved. No one saw them. No one wanted them. Jack looked at her closely. But you saw them. Her eyes grew wet. Because you saw me first. He knelt down and opened his arms slowly. Welcome home. The children hesitated. Zira gently nudged one forward. A small boy with scales stepped forward first. Jack reached into his coat pocket and handed him a shiny apple. The boy blinked, then smiled. The others followed. No words were spoken. Only warmth passed between them. That night the house was full of new life. The fire crackled bright. Blankets covered the floor. Laughter, even if soft, floated in the air. Jack cooked stew in a big pot. Zira helped him cut vegetables. The younger one sat wide-eyed, watching everything. He handed each one a spoon. Eat slow. There's plenty. Zira watched the children eat. her hands trembling with joy. Jack looked at her. "You did more than I ever could." She shook her head. "You gave me the strength." Then, very softly, she placed something on the table. Her old teacup. Jack blinked. "You kept it?" Zira nodded. "It was the first thing that was ever mine." Jack touched it gently. "And now, this place is yours too." Later that night, as the children slept curled beside the fire, Jack stood outside the house looking up at the stars. Zira joined him quietly. He looked down at her. "Do they know how lucky they are?" Zira smiled. "They will, when they can, sleep without fear." He turned to her. "You're not just a survivor, Zira. You're a light." She looked up. "Then this orchard is my sky." And so, the man who once caught a thief now kept a family. The orchard, once quiet and forgotten, was alive again, not just with apples, but with hope, and all of it, because of one scared girl who once ran through the trees. Spring came early that year. The ground was soft, rain was kind. Sunlight spilled gently over Jack's orchard like a blessing from above. But the biggest change wasn't the weather. It was the sound of laughter, children's laughter. Every morning, tiny feet ran across the grass. Little hands picked apples too early, dropped them, and giggled like it was treasure. The orchard was no longer silent. It breathed. It lived, and in the middle of it all stood Zira, not the frightened girl who once stole an apple. Now, she stood, tall, head high, scarf fluttering in the breeze. Her eyes were bright, and when she walked, the younger ones followed her like she was their son. Jack had made changes too. He built 2 new wooden rooms onto the house, a shared sleeping area, shelves full of books and toys, a second dining table made from the old barn door. Everyone had a bed now, and a name. Zira gave them. Each child who came from the shadows was named beneath the old apple tree by Zira, with Jack by her side. A girl with long ears became Naya, which meant songbird in Zira's forgotten language. A boy with green skin and quiet eyes was called Oran, meaning stone that never breaks. One by one they were named and claimed, and with each name they smiled brighter. One evening, Jack stood beside Zira under the tree where they had first met. She held a seed in her hand. "What's this?" he asked. Zira looked up at him. "Not an apple tree." She knelt and planted the seed carefully, covering it with dirt. "A new kind," she said. "From my world." Jack tilted his head. "Will it grow here?" "I don't know," she whispered, "but I want to try." He smiled. That's how everything starts. Weeks passed. The children began calling the orchard the place of first apples. Jack didn't correct them. He liked it. One day, Naya asked Jack, "Did you plant all these trees by yourself?" He laughed. "No, my father did. Long ago, I just take care of them now." "Will we take care of them next?" Jack looked at her, then over at Zira, who was teaching Oren how to fix a broken wheelbarrow. He nodded. "Yes, I think you will." That night, something special happened. Zira came to Jack holding a smooth rock in her hands. It had been painted. On it was written, "To Jack, the human who gave names." Jack stared at it, speechless. Zira smiled. "We all wrote on it. Together." He held the rock gently, like it might float away if he wasn't careful. "I was never a father," he whispered. "You are now," she said, and in that moment, Jack's eyes filled with quiet tears. As the season turned to summer, Jack added something new to the orchard. He built a wooden sign and placed it by the main path. On it, carved deeply, were the words, "The Orchard of Names, where no one is forgotten," and, below it, smaller words, "Started with an apple grown by love." The orchard never stopped growing after that. Not just trees, but people. Every now and then a new child would arrive, led by Zira, or found by Oren, or brought by someone who heard the story. Each time, Jack welcomed them with food, a blanket, and one simple question: "What name do you want?" because here, everyone had the right to choose. Years later, the alien tree Zira planted finally bloomed. Its fruit wasn't red like apples, but soft silver with glowing veins. Zira picked one gently and placed it in Jack's hand. "It grew," she whispered. Jack smiled. "So did you."